Friday Night Chat, first on BBC One, The Big Stars Talk to Parkinson.
Now, if my three guests have anything in common, apart from an abundance of talent, it is that they've all appeared in public wearing high heels. Now, you might think, so what? In which case, I have to tell you that two of them are men. If you still say, so what, I can only assume you weren't brought up in Yorkshire. One of my guests was brought up in Yorkshire, but being a woman, high heels were okay. In the 60s, or in these 60s, she was a sex symbol. In her 60s, she's recognised as one of our best actors. She is the evergreen Dame Diana Rigg. Another of my guests wore high heels when he played a transvestite in a film. They were size 11, so the chances are he didn't fool many people. He's a splendid Robbie Coltrane, and I'll be talking to Robbie later on in the programme. Now, my first guest has described himself as an action transvestite or a male tomboy. Others describe him as the funniest observer of the human condition to come along for many a long year. He's an international star for whom the world is too small. He wants to play a gig on the moon. Please welcome Eddie Izzard. So, this week, earlier on this week, 12,000 people at Wembley. Prince's Trust, that's a tough gig for a...
Not 12,000, 11,000.
11,000.
Because I got to say that, and then we'll go, oh, only 11,000. Because it's Wembley, and I was saying, I'm playing Wembley, people go, the stadium. I go, no, it's just the arena. But big gig.
Big gig, indeed. I mean, a huge, hall to reach as a comedian, I would imagine. I mean, it's all right for a rock group, but...
Well, I had a big screen behind me, and
right.
And so that hopefully the people at the back could see. But yeah, it's stupid. It's kind of ego blowing, but it was for charity, for the Prince's Trust. Sure. So I just thought, yeah, no problem. It can take away from my ego and just give all the money back to kids.
And Prince William's favourite comic now, apparently.
Apparently.
That's what the headline said.
It may not necessarily be his favourite. He's got some of the videos, according to his dad. So yeah, surreal humour. But he's got a good sense of humour. Charlie's got a good sense. He was into the Goons. He's into Spike.
Sure.
You know. Yeah. And so was I. My dad was into it. So I got my dad's sense of humour.
Those are the comedy heroes, were they? The sort of Goons, Peter Sellers, and that sort of thing.
The Python were my big heroes, and then my dad introduced me to the Goons retrospectively. And he worked for BP. We were out in this. I told Spike Milligan this is bizarre. He was working out in Abu Dhabi, Dubai, the Arab Emirates in the Gulf. And they were piping it out from Dubai. So they were saying, we now have the amazing hour of fun with these crazy funsters, the Goons. You know. It actually sounds like a German accent, doesn't it? But they weren't German. But they would, And then we listened to the Goons from Dubai, which was bizarre.
Wherever you go. I mean, Australia, they're played every day on radio. I mean, it's quite extraordinary.
Yeah, I mean, it's great stuff.
What about this ambition you have to play a gig on the moon? Is this a realistic ambition, do you think?
Well, I don't see why not. They're going to go there. Well, I mean, I've played Iceland, right? I'm doing
That's
France.
Like the moon, is it? Good preparation for the moon.
Iceland, they're kind of bonkers because they, have too much light in the summer and they go crazy and drink, and there's not enough light in the winter, so they go crazy and drink. And so it was very cool, and all the kids were cool. They all had their feet up on the stage, smoking cigarettes, and they're great English. They did it all in English, so they got it all. So. And I just think, go and play places where people say, well, you can't play there. Like doing it in French in Paris. They think, well, no, So I did it, and they go, yeah. And I think, if they go to the moon, why not do a gig on the moon?
Where do you get the crowd from?
Well, the other people on the moon.
Oh, Well, I've forgotten about them, I'm sorry.
But, I'm I'm talking about they're going to set up some sort of, they'll set up a space station or something, I'm not talking about tomorrow, I'm talking about,
In the
next Tuesday.
Next year. You mentioned there about playing gigs in France in French. You're not a linguist, though, are you? I mean, you weren't a linguist at school or university.
Not really. I just learned it at school. But I liked it. My brother was a good linguist, but I just like languages. I didn't do them at A-level because it was all literature and stuff. I just like speaking the language. I like communicating.
But was schoolboy French any good to you when you went over there too?
No, not really.
La plume de ma tante. I mean,
no, la plume de ma tante, ça ne marche pas. Actually, Prince Charles spoke French as well, because we had a chat in French last night. So I'm big into the European thing, so I love the European idea. I know in Britain everyone's been going, oh, Europe, hide under a rock. But I think, no, get involved in Europe and get the driving, drive it, rather than just be back passengers or in the boot. So I thought, if you go over and you're an English person and you speak French, then, or attempt to at least, because initially there was a documentary that showed my early attempts, and it was embarrassing. I was embarrassingly bad. But you've got to start somehow.
Yes.
And I will go through that humiliating start-off period to get through to the last time I went back, played a week, about 95% French by the end. And the French were coming along going, this kind of works. And I am, doing it in the second language, and I am doing stand-up. They don't even have stand-up comedy there. And I'm a transvestite, so they freak out at that. I was on French telly, on Canal Plus, and they have this program that goes all around France. And I just said there, oui, je suis travesti. It's called travesty in French.
Travesty?
I mean, uphill struggle or what? So I've got to sell three things at once. And, but I think if I get the hip kids in Paris, they might say, hey, it's kind of like rock and roll-y kind of thing. And they'll get on board, and then the trendy kids, and then it'll filter down. So that's my big plan.
I mean, have you found that being the transvestite, action man, executive transvestite, whatever you describe yourself as, I mean, have you found that a hindrance to your career or a help in many ways?
Well, people... Normally, if you were an actor or performer or whatever, you say, I'm going to be come out and tell people the truth that I am a transvestite. It's just, no one advised me to do this. I just thought I could have just lost my career. So I was like, I just took my courage in my hand and said, I'll do this, I'll be honest. Crazy idea, being honest in 1997 or whatever I said it. It was earlier, in the decade. And... But having done it, people seem to respond to the fact that you're just being honest. And I'm just saying, I'm TV, that's it, that's the truth, and if you've got a problem, that's your problem. And they swing with it.
Well, it doesn't seem to be a problem. The number of women that have come up to me knowing you were on the show and saying how much they fancied you, you probably don't find that surprising. Nor do I, looking at you now. But I mean, but the idea of... and you are toned down tonight.
No, I'm in blokey mode, you see.
You're in blokey, I see.
Well, it's like... the point is that women started wearing trousers in the 20s, and they said they can't do that. Now women have total clothing rights. They can wear whatever they want, and no one has a bother about this.
Big rights.
Yeah, well, it is true, isn't it? Women can wear men's, flat shoes, men's trousers, a man's jacket, short hair, no makeup, and we're fine with that. That's okay. We don't say woman transvestite anymore. It's not in our social dictionary. It was back in the 20s and before. And I think men should have the same rights with the year 2000 just round the corner.
Now, your first ambition, I think, well, one of your first ambitions as a kid was to be in the army.
Yeah.
I mean, there would have to be a profound change of attitudes to fulfill that ambition, isn't it?
No, well, this is where people get confused, because drag queen, people think transvestite is drag queen. They're separate things. Drag queen is gay men doing their thing, kind of being glamorous. Transvestite is like male tomboy. All transvestites, all like 95%. I can't measure this. It's very difficult to measure, because you don't meet whole bunches of transvestites. Yes, hello. But they fancy women, and even men change sex and live as women, and then they have relationships with women. So it's like male tomboy or male lesbian. This is how I've tried to explain it. Yes. And so there's a big slice of bloke going on in there.
Yes.
And that's why action transvestite is me. I like running about, jumping, standing still. I mean, Diana Rigg played Emma Peel, and I'm a kind of male Emma Peel. That's where I'm driving.
Does she know this?
I haven't told her.
You haven't That'd be an interesting area for discussion. Why Emma Peel? I mean, because
Emma Peel was Emma
Peel
Peel was probably the first icon that came along and took...
That's right. She was the first strong woman, wasn't she?
Yeah, and she started kicking and punching,
right. Yeah.
and she looked sexy at the same time.
Yeah, that's right.
And I sort of want to be in that same area. but it's kind of in a skirt, and you know.
But you said, you said to me that you're in your blokey mood tonight.
Well, it's just because I've got a beard, and that explains it. But I've got the whole range. Like women can have the whole range from very sexy, that little black dress, whatever, down to dungarees, painting the house, you know, flat shoes, going out and playing football. And I could do the same. I could actually grow a beard, so I can go all the way from beard to wild glamour puss.
What was puberty like? That must have been even more of a mess than usual, mustn't it?
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
Because I mean, it's a nightmare, normal, isn't it? Really?
Well, I didn't deal with the transvestite thing at all at this stage.
You didn't?
Because if you know, transvestites, they do fancy women, and so you just look like a boy who fancies women. So it doesn't really come into it. And it was just this idea in the back of my head that seems a problem. I'll have to deal with it sometime. But meantime, puberty was... I was kind of a cute kid. I had early pictures of me. Cute kid. And then I hit puberty and became angular, spotty, pizza face. And I didn't get off with anyone for years. You know, I just lost all my confidence. I think it is a nightmare time. I don't know why Mother Nature's invented it.
It's terrible, isn't it?
It should happen when you're about 25.
How to deal with it.
Or like deers. You know, like small deers or gazelles, they seem to get up and they're on their feet within like hours, and then they're running about and playing banjos and doing whatever they want. And I think we should have a very quick puberty when we're 2, or leave it till we're 25.
But in this time, when you had ambitions to be in the SAS and the school cadet force and all that, and you were dealing with your sexuality, in fact, you had up for nicking a lipstick. Shoplifting. Now, there's something very odd in that, isn't there? I mean, you said that you didn't address the TV side of you, but surely that must have been an indication that things were awry.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, that's because I knew things were going on. I was 15 then, so it was, you know, gone 13, 14, 15. I was in Boots, Bexhill C, it was there. Had a loaf of bread, hid it under a loaf of bread. And I could have bought it with pocket money, you see, but it's too embarrassing to buy makeup, because you think they might say, why are you, a boy, buying makeup? You must be a transvestite. I will call God on my phone and the world will come. So I thought it'd be much more subtle to steal it and then just go to prison.
But they let you off, didn't they?
They let me off.
Did the policeman say anything to you?
No. No, he didn't sort of mention anything about the bad choice of makeup. Oh, you shouldn't use those. You want those Rimmel. They're much better, you know. But nothing really happened.
You've handled your career very carefully, in a sense. I mean, you've not done a lot of television, and you've also fulfilled another of your ambitions in that you now appear. You see yourself as an actor, and you've appeared in movies.
Yeah.
Now, this ambition to be an actor, I mean, was that about being a film star? Is it about being a film star? Is that where it goes back to?
I think my ego was screaming yes at wanting to be a film star, but I don't think I really look kind of film star thing. I'm not in that kind of bracket. I think I can... I wanted to do quirky, you know, nutcase parts. I think that's where I can excel at. And if you're British, they line you up for bad guy parts. They're quite happy at that. So I just play bad guys, really.
But didn't you... I mean, there's a story in the research about you breaking into Pinewood when you were a kid.
I was again about 15. It was just after the makeup thing. And I thought, I better hide somewhere. And I started reading the credits on films, and I thought, oh, there's information here. These people have done stuff, learn their names, you know. I became very tactical. And I found that Pinewood was at Iverheath, Bucks, and I took a train up to London, and I found it on the map, you see, Iverheath, Bucks, it's there. And I thought, I could go there, I just go there. And I thought maybe someone would give me a job. And I took a train to London and a tube to Uxbridge, a bus to Iverheath, got up, walked up to the front gate, and I said, can I have a look around? And said, no. You know, and they didn't know that I was on a big quest. But then I went round the corner, and the people were just walking in and out, so I thought, don't ask. That seems to be the thing. Don't ask whether you can come in, just walk in. And so I did, and I just crept round Pinewood, and nothing happened. I didn't meet anyone. No one said, hey, kid, you want to be in this movie? No. Nothing. I copied down the name of an editor. I thought, I was too scared.
But 20 years later or more, you went there in your own right, on your own steam, so to speak, to make the Avengers movie.
I did make the Avengers, second bad guy to Sean Connery, and the producer, I told him this story, and so he phoned ahead to get the doorman to... He phoned ahead and thought this idea, well, you refused last time. I'll get the doorman to welcome you back in. So we got in the car to go out. I didn't know about this. And as we went past the gate, they just went on past the gate. And I thought, what's going on here? He says, we'll show you a wall up here. So the guy obviously wasn't ready for this, you know, to welcome me back in to do this stage thing. Then I came back, and they stood the car stopped, and they kept talking to him. Say it now, say it now. And eventually he said, oh, you're Mr. Izzard, welcome back. I went, hello. So it was a great idea. It kind of backfired in a way. But
Well, how did Big Sean Connery handle the fact that he was acting alongside the transvestite?
he didn't know. I mean, you know, because I don't think he was quite up with, you know, what stand-ups were coming through. So I was just some bloke there who was acting as his guy running his gang. But I did have painted nails at one point because I was wearing gloves all the time, so I could have painted nails. And I saw him once look at my nails and go, and then just like, what the? And then just carried on. So he didn't mention it, you know. But
now we're going to bring Dame Diana Rigg on now. So there'll be two Emma Peel sitting here, will there? Is that the idea?
well, she's the real Emma Peel, and I'm just a wannabe.
Did you like that film, the Bond movie that she was in?
Absolutely. I think it's one of the best. I think also George Lazenby was really good, and everyone downs him. Well, I don't know. I used to ask her about it. No, I love George Lazenby. I love the fight sequence at the beginning. I'm a big Bond aficionado, but she was fantastic at Emma Peel, especially when the car's there and he's in the telephone box. He goes, James! And boom, boom. Drove a very good car, very good ice skating. I mean, she was brilliant.
You're going to have lots to talk about. All right. Eddie is out for the moment. Thank you very much indeed. My next guest became an international star in the 60s when she played Emma Peel in The Avengers, more than 30 years on, and she's lost none of her appeal. Her talent as an actress was recognised when she was made a Dame of the British Empire. Her everlasting glamour was confirmed when she was voted one of the sexiest stars of the century. She is Dame Diana Rigg.
This glorious travesty.
You have a fan here. The first, or the second, Emma Peel, eh?
Yeah, my rival.
Yeah.
Just a wannabe. I can't quite work. I just didn't have the body for it. I got a bloke's body. It doesn't quite work, but it's a pleasure driving to.
What about that period? I read a report recently where you said that, in fact, you didn't really enjoy, you didn't cope well with the fame of that time.
No, because I was thrown into it, and I was very young. And in those days, nobody gave you any help. And so I was rather frightened by this. It's rather like having sort of huge lamps turned on you, and you're private, and you don't know how to deal with this spotlight. It's disturbing, and people wanting stuff from you, and you're young, and you don't know quite how to answer that.
It was a surprise, as you said, nobody prepared you for it, and of course you weren't, it just happened, didn't it? It just bolt from the blue, literally.
Yeah.
And you became this huge star, but
Yeah.
more than that, this sex symbol and everything.
Yeah, sex symbol was the hardest thing to cope
What's
with.
it? Why?
Well, because I was brought up in Yorkshire. You see.
We don't have them.
Which means that you just don't talk about those sort of things. And you certainly don't deal with, you don't flirt, for starters, and you don't flaunt. No flirt, no flaunt. So I was totally inept. I didn't know how to deal with it.
And you think, looking back, that you might have enjoyed it more, actually?
Well, not particularly that bit, but I see the Maggies now and all these kind of sort of stars, young stars, and they're having fun. And I kind of hid away. And I think I could have had more fun. But then I went on to have quite a lot of fun.
You did. You made up for it later on.
Oh, yes.
The last time we met was in 1982.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that was the last season of the last show, the Parkinson show. And you then were telling me about your hobby at that time was biting babies' bums.
My baby's bottom.
You tell me how you used to like to have a snack from your
Yes.
baby's bum. You made all the newspapers.
Oh,
next
yum,
morning.
yum, yum. And an awful lot of people wrote to me and said, how can you be so disgusting and bring sex into your relationship with your child? And well, but that's what it is, basically, isn't it? I mean, this is the father's skin. Yeah, and then I had to, as she grew older, I had to beg, bargain, to bite. And I'm babies now, you know. I really have to contain myself.
You do.
But honest to God, if people are truly honest, they recognise that it's a sort of You know, babies are edible. They are so... Any babies.
I never went for that kind of area myself.
It's an interesting thought.
We just bite babies' bums.
Oh, yes.
I've never had a baby, so I don't really know
wait till
the
you
whole
have one.
baby biting thing.
Yeah, there's...
Is that on the cards, you having a baby?
Not at the moment. But I'd be a very good one-person family, I think. One-parent family. The perfect one-parent
But you
family.
must have a baby.
I will at some point, but I can't just do it now.
I'm not suggesting you do it now, but as a long-term game plan, you might think.
It is on a long-term back burner, not going for it at the moment,
Yeah.
but, yeah.
And an awful lot of women find you sexy.
I know. They
So-
told me.
Do you find him sexy?
I think he's wonderful.
You?
I go to see his shows.
Yeah, sure.
I am staggered by the... Oh, God, I could never do it. Step on stage alone in front of 11,000 people and entertain them. I could never do that in a million years. I think it's brilliant.
We met because you were doing Medea.
I was doing Medea.
In the theatre behind. We shared the... was it the stage door?
You came into my dressing room to talk about acting, because you wanted to talk about acting. And this wonderful man came into my dressing room, and I was busy making up for the show, right? Getting into the kind of sort of Greek classic mode.
Heavy part.
Yeah, heavy number. And in he walked in he had a kilt and high heel shoes, I seem to remember.
Most probably.
Okay. So I was being really serious, and in came Eddie with this, and he wanted to talk about acting.
But I like your story about when you did Medea, about how to get those kids to be emotional with you when you had to have your own children killed. And that was a great story, which you should tell right now.
Yes. What is it?
I can't even remember.
Well, shall I tell it?
Yeah.
It's just, as we were saying, to get kids to be emotional, because she had to kill her own child, have her own child, yeah? Right
Yeah.
in the story, because I don't watch plays. She said she tried to get them to be emotional, let you to hug them, and you tried giving them sweets and stuff, and in the end, money was the only thing that worked.
I bribed them.
Giving them cash
Yeah.
was the only thing that worked.
Yeah. It's interesting. Children respond to cash all the time.
But the point I was going to make, actually, about that was there was in the 80s, of course, you actually gave up your career in a sense to bring up your child.
I
didn't
did.
you? Yeah.
I did. I don't regret that
You
at all.
don't? You don't?
It was the best thing in the world, you know. Being at the school gates when they tumble out of school, being there for the sports day, being there for the play, being there for the school concert, where, you know, the wonderful kind of stumbling, you know she's not going to get through the piece.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have missed that for the world.
But I mean, a lot of people in that situation would be, understandably, insecure because, I mean, there are more resting actors than there are actors in work, and you part yourself away from the action for 10 years, and...
Yeah, well, I paid the penalty at the end of it. I
Did you?
I did. Oh, yeah, I was
couldn't-
out of work. I mean, when the time came and I said hi, there was not much response. But that's fine. So then I had to start pretty low down again. And I don't mind that. There's a kind of justice in that, because I don't think you can treat the theatre in a cavalier fashion. I think you have to pay your dues every inch of the way. And I stopped paying my dues.
You came back with a bang, of course, in the end, because, I mean, you won, what, 4 or 5 awards. You did Medea.
Yeah, I was very lucky.
Virginia Woolf, you did.
Yeah.
You did some very, very strong parts.
Yes.
Which must be, I mean, very fulfilling that kind of role is still there.
They are wonderful. They are absolutely wonderful. But they're also quite heavy and quite testing. I met a Japanese outside the stage door when I was coming out of Phaedra, which is yet another of those Greek kind of Sturm und Drang parts, and he said, "You're going to play comedy soon, yes?" Obviously, he'd been to see everything that I'd done.
But in fact,
Heavy.
But you haven't played much comedy in your career.
No,
have you?
I'm longing to do
Yeah.
it. I adore comedy. I so admire people who like yourself. It's the most unifying thing in a theatre, you know, laughter. Everybody's laughing. And they have that common thing. However disparate you all are, you're just laughing on the same instant. And I long to be able to... I long to do it. I have played comedy before, but somehow I've got this reputation as this big drama queen.
You've also, I mean, not remarkably, I mean, quite sensibly, as you got to your 60th year, you became, according to Playboy magazine, one of the sexiest, 100 sexiest women of the century.
God knows how. Being Yorkshire, I don't know. I think it's wonderful. It's terrific, and I'm obviously deeply flattered. But do you know what happens when you grow older? You have a choice to make as a woman. I don't think men have to make this choice. I look at photographs, for example, of Sophia Loren, of Claudia Cardinali, of Joan Collins, of all those people who've actually kept that. They're kind of sort of preserved. And it shows that they've a vast amount of self-discipline, but an absolute belief in themselves as a sex symbol, no matter what age they are, right? Now, I couldn't do that.
You couldn't.
You have to make you make a choice as you grow older, and you say, I have to evolve. I have to. I am what I am. And growing old is sort of surprising. You know, you walk along a street and you catch sight of yourself in a shop window and you think, who is that kind of late middle-aged woman? Christ, it's me! But that's the way it is.
But you see, that is interesting, because you're in an occupation in which glamour is everything.
Supposedly.
Supposedly.
Yeah.
And the pressure upon an actress particularly. As you said, men don't have that kind of pressure,
No.
but actors do, to retain that which people remember.
I can't think of anything worse, frankly.
Can you not?
No, because then you need... getting up in the morning, and you must know this, as you get older, there are mornings when it hurts. Nobody tells you about the pain as you grow older. But maybe you've kind of played, 3 sets of tennis the day before, and so it hurts the following morning. And then you go and you sit in front of the mirror and you think, dear God, I've got to jack all this up. And I've got to make it all terrific, and I've got to make it look like press rewind. This was 35 years ago, and I haven't changed. And I couldn't bear to do that.
It's interesting, actually, isn't it? Because I suppose that when you were that glamour puss back in the sort of 60s, that they take hours manufacturing you, wouldn't they? I mean, in makeup.
They did.
Yes.
When I was naturally quite attractive.
Yes.
But I spent hours. Now, I'm so bored by the makeup chair that I say to them, you've got 15 minutes. That's it, max. And I'm going in front of the cameras.
It does solve a lot of problems, of course, if you are contented with yourself, if you can see yourself like that, doesn't
Content is not the point.
Isn't it?
Not quite. No. Growing old is it's a twofold process. You have to be philosophic about it, you have to laugh about it, and I think you have to enjoy it. You really have to enjoy it.
I think part of enjoying it too, and I think this is where you're lucky, and so all of us, is that if you're in our game, I mean, you shouldn't consider retiring, should you really?
Never.
No. I mean, why bother?
Well,
I mean, what would you do?
what would you do?
Precisely.
You just got to keep on trucking until you fall off the twig.
You've got to drop dead while you're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because some people are worried about dropping dead on stage. But I'm into it.
Which comedian did?
Tommy Cooper.
Tommy Cooper.
Tommy
Tommy.
Cooper. I know that's blessed ending to a glorious career. Isn't
Yes.
I mean, some people think that's embarrassing, but I think, no, it's, he was doing what he liked to do, and boom, he's out. And Eric Morecambe was taken very ill right on stage and went off.
But Tommy Cooper was an extraordinary death in the sense that when he died almost instantaneously.
On a big laugh, I hope.
Well, actually what happened was that they closed the curtains, because it was the curtain call, and it went across. But his feet were sticking out of the curtains.
That's sweet.
And of course, there were these huge feet that Tommy had.
Yeah.
And of course, people thought it was a joke. And in a sense, it's macabre, I know, but nonetheless,
it's a
being a
wonderful way to
comedian, it's marvelous in a sense.
Yeah, I think he would have liked it that way. I mean, it's just, you've got to go working, I think.
Yeah. What about, would you consider plastic surgery sometime in your career?
Absolutely, every day.
Which...
Just get them working away.
I can't see what needs improving.
I get my legs moved over the back of my neck. So I can sort of be
Do
more
you
bendy.
do exercises and stuff?
Well, I try to, and then because I'm touring, I sort of do that.
That's
'cause I
a
have
bad excuse.
Oh,
All the people who are really committed to mega survival
I have
their trainers.
Yeah, I know. But I keep moving across continents and stuff.
Fine.
So it becomes a little problem unless you have vast amounts of cash to take someone with you, with a chef and someone who plays banjo and all this kind of thing. Then you become a king, don't you? You know, and it's travelling minstrel players. But I really, my discipline is weak and my metabolism is low. And whoever works out how to get that dial on the metabolism and just eke it up, because some people are very thin and they have to eat tons of stuff and they can't, otherwise they just shrivel away. And I just have to eat nothing and then I still put it on, you know. So I have to run.
The other piece of bad news is as you get older, your metabolism slows down.
Oh, God, it's
And you have to
called.
eat even less.
So I just think I could eat lettuce the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And
Everything slows down as you get older.
Viagra?
Oh, never had a thought of it.
Never had it.
No, not at all.
You've never been offered it in the street?
No, it's a designer drug. No, I'm Yorkshire.
It's the perfect excuse.
It's a perfect excuse for everything, isn't it? Diana Rigg for the moment, thank you very much indeed. Dame Diana Rigg. Like Dame Diana, my next guest has been in a Bond movie. In GoldenEye, he played a villain, a role he repeats in the next Bond movie currently being made. He arrived on the big screen via the small screen. Tutti Frutti announced his talent. Cracker substantiated it. Ladies and gentlemen, Robbie Coltrane. Good to see you.
Being a school outing, isn't it? Best behaviour.
That's it. I mentioned in the introduction of this show that all three of my guests had to worn high heels at one stage in their career.
Yes.
And you were
Well,
in a film called The Fruit Machine.
I was, and I studied transvestites. I went to a lot of places where they hang out purely in the interest of research.
Didn't talk to me.
Well, you were too young then, probably. And when I went to get fitted for my shoes, I'm a size 11 broad. I think you know what I'm saying there, ladies. And I said, can you give me a pair that are lined with some sort of spongy material? Because women's shoes tend to be awfully thin, you know, for somebody my size, because I'm going to be hanging around for a lot, you know, hours on end, because I'm doing it for a film. And he just went, of course you are, sir. And I just thought, that must be all these sort of lawyers, middle-aged lawyers. I'm doing a film, and I'll need a short, frilly dress, you know. And so that was great. But I did empathise. My God, tights and all that. And I had these stick-on nails as well, and getting tights on.
Stick-on, that's not a problem. You've got to paint that. My own nails. Boys have better nails than women. Women's nails always break. Boys have very good nails.
But I mean, when you did some research, what kind of research did you do?
I just hung around in some of those places. It's slightly, like you're saying, that there's a complete difference between people who just like to dress up in women's frocks occasionally and people who have a sort of sexual identity crisis. And I mean, that is very interesting because, this one guy who I kind of based this character on was a truck driver. And, you know, tattoos, you know, like... and then at 6 o'clock it was, right, now I'm Shirley. And people, it's true, isn't it? It's true. People would phone him up, and they go, what time is it, Maureen? It's 5:45. Oh, he'll still be Bob then. Aye, Bob, can you come round? And then suddenly it'd be bing, bang, bing, down. I'm Shirley now, you know, and all this stuff. And that was it. But it did kind of... Something that did interest me, and so this is as a feminist question. Why it is that so many men who dress up as women want to be Bette Lynch. I mean, none of them want to be Indira Gandhi.
I can explain it.
Well, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can explain it.
Go on.
The explanation is that you tend to fantasize about being a very sexy woman, and they only come out the weekends usually when they stop truck driving.
Yes.
The truck driving applies to the fact that there's a big slice of boy going on there. A lot of people in the forces end up TV. You know, people who do big macho things. You know, I wanted to be in the army, and then I thought it's not going to swing with transvestism, and. The thing why it goes so extreme is because they only get the chance. It's like the first disco, age 14, for girls. They really glam up, and it's the short skirts and the high heels and whatever.
Right.
When women get to 20, they think, oh, stuff all that. It's a pain, and I'm just going to dress how I want, occasionally dress up. But for people who are just coming out being TV, it's that.
Right.
That's the only
But you
time.
always dress quite restrained, apart from that yellow mini skirt.
Because I can wear whatever I want.
Yeah.
It was red. Whatever I want. I have total clothing rights. I have grabbed them.
Well, so do we all.
And so I can... Yeah, exactly.
Oh, good for
I've
you.
just
I'm all
said
for
I can do it whenever I want.
I am, really.
You want to be be a policeman talking about him wanting to be in the army, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I read, my dad did a lot of police sergeant work, and we did a lot of...
He was a doctor.
A doctor, yeah. But he did a lot of dragging bodies out the Clyde and stuff. Professionally, you understand. But he had some horrific books in the house. Medical Jurisprudence and Toxicology is a book I would never open if I were you. It's about how to tell if somebody who's fallen 18 flights onto a set of railings was going head first or arse first when they hit them. You know, because, well, some people have to consider that, don't they?
Certainly do.
I get quite morbidly fascinated with all this, simply because at the end of the day, killers and people who've done dreadful things have been caught because of one hair, one single hair that's been found. I mean, now with DNA, it's getting even more precise. They're now saying that there are DNA patterns you can tell for what colour people's hair and eyes were just from a bit of their blood and things like that. So I was fascinated by that. So it was quite ironic ending up doing Cracker. Doing Cracker.
That's right.
The world came full circle.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be in a rock and roll band, and they gave me Tutti Frutti. So I'd quite like to run a South American country. So
Anybody listening?
There, like I just like the big epaulets, you know. That's South American. Those Nazis, they get their best frocks, don't they?
It's the extremist parties, the communists and the Nazis. Most extreme said, hey, costumes.
Medals, and I mean, you always see these Russian guys, and I think, nobody's lived that long. You know? Nobody, what's he doing with a Trafalgar medal, this guy? He's cheating. There must be something that says, medals are us for friends of the party.
That's your Russian accent, of course, from GoldenEye.
Good link, Michael.
I know. Seamless.
You can tell why he's in charge, can't you? Sorry.
And you're but you must be the only villain, Blofeld or Particles, who played by different actors.
Yeah.
The only villain who survived a Bond movie, weren't you?
I know. It cost me a fortune. Well, in GoldenEye, it was kind of unresolved because he's a bad guy, but not irredeemably bad. So this time he's it's the Akim Tamaroff part. It's not exactly glamorous, but well, you remember him?
I do indeed.
He was the man who said the camera either loves you or doesn't. It's probably one of the ugliest men that ever lived, and I thought that was sweet actually. You know what I mean?
I remember
Akim
him.
Tamaroff,
the bad guy, touch
I
of
have
evil.
no idea who you're talking
You've not.
about.
I thought as a student of the movies, your movie career started with James Mason. Then you must have known who Akim Tamaroff was.
No, I mean, I'm a big movie buff, but for me.
We used to wear a fez at times as well.
Yeah.
That's Tommy Cooper.
Yes, exactly. He was always the swarthy bad guy.
That's right. Always in the Eric Ambler film.
Yeah, and he was great. I mean, he never stopped working, you know.
That's right. So, but I mean, this Bond thing, it must be the kind of every boy's fantasy, isn't it?
It is. Well,
Get involved.
let me tell you what it's like. The first day on, I went down and it was, hello, Rob, you know, going back to Pinewood. It is a bit like going back to school. So, how you doing, big man? Not seen you for a while. You know, it's very friendly. It's so different from Hollywood. It's very, lots of guys shouting at Motorola's, you know, going, where's that goddamn, you know, whereas it's, hello, Bob, how you doing? Do you remember me? What was it we done? Nice and around. How you doing, you old tot? See you in the cantina. Bit of respect, please. But you don't get any, and that's half the fun, as you know. But you're there 5 minutes before somebody says, have you been fitted for your gun yet? You know. Oh, it's great. And they, you know, the host, I'm going, you know those holsters the CIA have that swivel, you know, for a quick pull-out. Do you have any of them? He's going, just a minute, sir. You know, it's like one of these Dickensian seats where the sort of scenes where some aristo's getting fitted for his hunting boots, you know. But I think, sir, perhaps a 16B. Have you got a Colt 45 semi-automatic? I've always liked one of them. In chrome, sir, let's see what we can do. And you think they should be filming this, you know. It's like a scene out of a Bond movie. I mean, that's... And there's the double irony, if you will.
It is a complete toy thing. I just did this film called The Mystery Men, and they gave me a gun that was huge and gold, and I thought, great, you know.
Yeah.
It only had 15 shots in it, you know, amazing thing. And I even said the special effects guys can even make up things. Like I said, can I have a hairspray? Because I was playing Tony Pompadour, with big hair. And I said, can I have a hairspray that turns into a flamethrower? I said, all right. And they went and made it.
Right. But you never sort of grown with movies, did you, Diana?
Well, I did a Bond.
I know you did.
Years
I know
ago.
you did. You did several movies.
And it sort of brings back memories because it was profligate. The money that they spent on things was something unbelievable. Yeah. And as an actress who'd you know, been in the Avengers and not been paid a great deal of money. I was paid sonking amounts for this thing. I couldn't believe it.
This must be lira, surely. Yes.
Well, they used to call it Mickey Mouse money because they
Yeah.
just sort of toss stuff at you. And then I was taken over to Paris, to the collections, to pick out what I wanted to wear. Please. And I was sitting next to Harry Saltzman's wife.
Yeah.
And it was a hot June day, and she was wearing pearls, which were probably worth, you know, king's ransom. And I remember all these beautiful girls drifting past, and I was thinking, well, I'll have number 3, maybe, if I can fit into it, or 4 or 5, 6. And then I heard Mrs. Saltzman saying, oh, pearls are so hot, she said. And I thought, well, you have to be really rich to reach that point.
But, Robbie, you're like the rest of us, actually. I mean, Hollywood was your, I suppose, ambition, wasn't it, in a sense? I mean,
Well,
a
sort of.
fantasy, in a sense.
Yeah, definitely a fantasy. I never, ever sat down and thought, what is my plan for the next 6? I think that's a generation difference. I mean, our generation, we just thought things happened to you. And I mean, I used to sit and watch movies and know that I absolutely loved them. And when I was watching movies, I felt kind of excited and safe at the same time. It was where I wanted to be, but it never occurred to me in a million years that I would ever be in one and see my name running up. And,
yes.
And I still get a real buzz out of it, actually.
You do?
You know, like when I walk onto, I mean, going down to Pinewood, there's just miles of cable and trucks and lights being pulled out of trucks, and you really think, yes, this is it. Excuse me. I still get that feeling that I've made it. I've run away to the circus, and they're paying me for it, and no one's going to drag me home. You know, this is where I belong.
But what about Hollywood itself? I mean, that's the American film industry. I mean, that's that industry that you grew up with in your imagination.
Yes.
That doesn't exist anymore.
No, that's gone.
I mean,
That's gone.
It's
It's like everywhere else in the world. It's a sort of global economy run by accountants. So there's not these grand old cigar-chomping guys who could memorize 50 scripts, you know, like Thalberg and all those guys. These guys are gone. There's all little groups of rather uptight guys in Armani suits who are always on the cell phone, who don't appear to be having a lot of fun, and I think that's the worst thing. Do you know what I mean? I mean, you read about John Ford. He finished making Stagecoach, got onto his 3-master, went down to Mexico, went round all the whorehouses, followed by a mariachi band and half the cast until it was time to go and make the next one. You can't really imagine people doing that now because, you know, going down with 4 tons of Perrier water and their cellular phones.
And your personal trainer.
Yeah, and your personal trainer. Yeah, I don't.
Obligatory personal
But
trainer.
I mean, making movies is the same everywhere, really, isn't it? It is. You know, it's the same.
They used to take hours. They used to take hours over a close-up in the old days. They don't anymore.
They still do. They still do.
Really?
Well, the big studios are obsessed with coverage. They have to have every single point of view. They'd have to film you and me, and then from the top, and then the floor's point of view, and then that side, and then that side.
Yes.
Just so that, should you die, or disappear, or something, when they come to edit the film, they've got every possible point of view.
Right.
And it becomes a bit tiring.
Yes.
Whereas the British directors, who tend to be ex-telly and ex-BBC, are sort of, yes, one there, and then 11s. And everybody goes, good by me, Gav, lovely. And it's great. I mean, that's what Cracker was like, because the schedule was horrific, and all the equipment had to be moved up to this you'll like this, the old Daily Mirror building in the middle of Manchester. Big, hideous, monolithic building. Maxwell owned it, of course, and he called it Maxwell House. Now, does that prove that somebody's got no sense of humour or what? And you think, he must have had all these guys that were so scared of them. Nobody said, please, sir. You know, Maxwell House is a well-known brand of coffee. Nobody said, you know, it's just but they have to move all the equipment up, like 5 floors in this tiny elevator every day in this disused factory. So it was very much less than glamorous.
Wasn't it true when McGovern wrote Cracker that he had in mind a small, wiry man?
It's true. So in his description, I've seen it. I should have cut it out. A small, wiry man who looks as if he might have spent most of his life in the army. So was there any choice? So we had a very long boozy lunch when I had to convince him. And it was very funny, actually, because Gab Neal, who got it all together, he knew that if McGovern and I ever sat down and had a long boozy lunch, that we'd be lifetime pals, and that would be it. And of course, he was right.
Any chance of Cracker coming back at all?
Well, there's talk of doing a Millennium one. What a Millennium Cracker would be like, I don't know. For the introduction of digital telly.
Right.
But I mean, I've always said I will do another cracker tomorrow if McGovern writes it and if the script's right.
Yeah.
But the idea of saying, oh, we must do a cracker with that just being the motive is not a good idea.
Yes.
You'll leave them wanting more, really.
Now, you've come this very day from seeing your latest movie, which is to be released a long time ahead, I suppose, but it's a Kevin Costner movie.
Kevin Costner and Robin Wright Penn. And it's a really passionate love story. It's wonderful to see, actually, because it's... well, I would say that, wouldn't I? It's wonderful to see, and it'll be on shortly. No, it is... What I like about it is it's about grown-up love. It's about two people who are you know, grown up. Hello?
No, I'm listening. I mean, what do you want to do?
Well, so much... Look, put it this way. You know, a lot of Hollywood movies you see now, the editors are going to love this show, I tell you. Shall we leave the bit where he scratches his arse? No, don't do it. Interestingly, Michael, a lot of big Hollywood movies which involve romance are about very, very young people having fairly shallow relationships that involve a lot of nakedness, because they want... The demographics are that most people go to the movies up between 18 and 24.
Yes.
And you very rarely see a genuine adult story about grown-ups, and one of them's just lost
How grown up?
his wife. Well, it's about how grown up.
Yeah.
You mean, is it filthy?
Are we talking old porn here?
No, we're not. We're talking about people in their, well, I'll be careful now, 30s, I guess, both of whom have had a life, you know.
Yeah.
And one of them's got a child, and her husband's buggered off, and the other one has lost his wife 2 years previously. So they're both people who really do not want to get re-involved.
Old-fashioned Hollywood movies.
It is old-fashioned in that sense, and it's very, very sad. Except when I'm on, I play a rather rude and cynical person. It's a very nice sort of old Spencer Tracy type part. It's not one of those old guys just kind of, yeah, get out, you know. So that was
Spencer
great.
Tracy. Now, there was an actor.
No, there was an actor.
Wonderful actor. One of my great, great heroes.
Me too.
All righty. OK, now, so you're doing what after this? Are you resting or after the Bond thing?
Tonight, thought I might go for a couple of sherbets. What do you say? After the Bond, I'm supposed to be doing a film in Dublin, set in a prison, playing an old fella from Dublin. It's kind of like a postmodern violent porridge, our scenes. It's like there's the old lag and the young lag in prison, but it's all involves machine guns and nastiness and drugs. So.
Dan, what about you? What are you doing next?
And I did something for the BBC last year called Mrs. Bradley. And I'm doing some more Mrs. Bradleys. Yeah.
You also go fishing, aren't you, after this?
I go fishing directly tomorrow.
Where?
Scotland.
Where?
On the Teeth. Are you going to be nice to me?
Very. Whereabouts?
I tell you, fisher people are tarts.
Absolutely.
They will do
anything for a stretch of the tweed.
Yeah,
it's true, isn't it? Absolutely anything.
Yeah.
How did you get interested in fishing? I mean,
my father fished, but I was never allowed to because he came from the generation where women didn't fish. So I was always on the bank watching him fish, panting. And then I got the chance about 25 years ago and started, and I adore it. It's the perfect antidote.
Was it fly fishing you do?
Fly fishing. Or you can do it with a kind of, what's the other one? No, spinner. I don't do coarse fishing. Not because I'm sort of upstage about it, but I just haven't learned how to.
You also used to have a greyhound, didn't you?
I did. I had the back legs of a greyhound. Never got anywhere.
No.
And I feel rather guilty, actually, because I believe that greyhounds, when they stop racing, get sort of turned into dog meat or God knows what. And I feel that I should have actually taken this dog on board and taken it home. He was adorable. He just never won, that's all.
You had the back legs of a greyhound.
Well, yeah, I figure. Mine was the smaller investment.
All right, you only buy bits. I see. I just thought you had back legs.
Got it.
They're never going to win, are they? Just with the back legs.
Because it's the nose that...
Yeah.
It's really quite... I mean,
it won by a leg.
I learned... You know what you do if they don't... First of all, if you go to a greyhound track and you'll be... The greyhound that craps is the one to bet on. Because he's much more kind of sprightly, right? The greyhound that the trainers don't want to win, they feed them hard-boiled eggs. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I learned all about it. The greyhounds, when the trap's open, the greyhound's going...
So you don't bet on the one that's farting then? Oh, what fun. It's great fun.
It's great
fun.
It's
Wonderful.
Because you don't have to, it's not like horse racing, we have to wait ages between the races.
It's
There's
quick.
one every 5, you just
And
get time to get up.
they're chasing after this ridiculous piece of fur.
Why do they do it?
They should put different things instead of the fuzzy bit of fluff. Just put a can of dog food there. See if they Or an owner.
That's your
an
alternative.
owner going, come on, my son, come on.
Yeah.
But you want a greyhound that gets on top of the fuzzy thing and just goes around holding onto the fuzzy thing.
It's a really quick one.
That one.
Yeah. That's brilliant.
All right.
I like that.
Well, sadly, we've come to the end of our time, and that wonderful discourse on ground. Very instructive. The amazing stuff that you pick up when you sit here and listen.
You thought you were just talking to an actress, didn't you? Here I am. Greyhound expert, fishing expert, Viagra expert, age expert.
Yes. But anyway, thank you all for being so splendid, and you, Robert Coltrane, thank you very much indeed. Robert Coltrane.
My pleasure.
My thanks to Robert Coltrane, Dame Diana Rigg and Eddie Izzard. Join us at the same time next week when my guests are Lenny Henry and Rolf Harris. Until then, from all of us here, good night.
New arrivals in Castlefield open up some old wounds.
Who's Rita talking to?
Do you fancy a chicken corner for old times?
I'm married to someone else!
I want to look after my own son.
I don't think that's a good idea. Maria.
The past is always present in Playing the Field, Thursday night at 9:30 on BBC One.
If you want to be part of the biggest and best Gunge ever, call 0891 222299 now. It's Judgment Day in Casualty.
Somewhere up there, people are deciding my life for me. And guess what? I'm a bit scared.
But is it justice they're after?
Hey, you! I want a word with you!
Or revenge?
I pray to God one day you have a son. And think then...